Yes, sir. Over to you, sir. Please start the session.
Okay, thank you. So, hello everyone, and good morning to all of you. Welcome you all to this webinar on relevance of postmodernism in 21st century. I would like to introduce the chief guest of this webinar and the speaker as well. Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Sanjay Mittal sir, who is present here, is the chief guest of this webinar. Welcome you sir to this webinar as the chief guest, and thank you for your
Thank you,
kind
Himanshu.
approval to this webinar as the chief guest, and thank you for your kind approval to this webinar. I will never forget your academicness in whole of my life and the way you conduct things as the Vice Chancellor. There are many things to learn from you, and I have found a friend, philosopher, and guide in your personality. And you know, there is no need to introduce you. I think the position you hold, I think it is enough not to introduce you. And thank you once again, sir, for your being with us. Then coming to our speaker, Dr. Kamal Choubey. He is a young scholar. He teaches political science at the Dayal Singh College of Delhi University. He is an associated professor there. He has completed his PhD from
Thank you.
Department of Political Science, Delhi University, and he has also done his postdoctorate from the Nehru Memorial Museum Library, Delhi, on the topic law as a site of contestation between the state and the margin, a comparative study of the two progressive laws, PESA and FRA, from 2012 to 2014. Currently, he is working on a major research project, with Indian Council of Social Science Research, Delhi, right? And he has published, many articles in EPW, in studies in Indian politics, that is published by the Lokniti CSTS, and in the Journal of Social Change. And I personally know him. He's an academic person, and I always believe that position is not the index of knowledge, and I have faith and I have belief in him that he will satisfy for the purpose for which he is invited. So now I welcome and I invite our Honorable Vice Chancellor, the chief guest of this webinar, to inaugurate this webinar and speak a few lines for the success of this webinar. So please, sir.
Thank you, Himanshu. And I am very delighted that Department of Political Science and Public Administration of Sambalpur University is basically active in conducting such webinars, which is definitely going to help the participants in terms of updating their knowledge. And friends, the topic which he has chosen for today's webinar is quite proactive, and I congratulate him for choosing such a wonderful topic. And the resource person is also from Delhi Dayal Singh College, and I welcome the resource person who basically has been introduced as an academic and an associate professor in political science department. So welcome the resource person, my dear participants, and all other faculty members who are present out over here in today's webinar, that we need to understand the importance of these webinars. Friends, it is not easy to conduct any such type of a webinar. It requires a lot of effort and time. And most important is that to basically get the resource person for such webinars is very difficult. And for that, I feel that I will basically not doing my responsibility if I don't congratulate and therefore admire the performance of Dr. Himanshu, who is an assistant professor with us in Department of Political Science, and all other members, that these types of webinars really are very, very helpful in terms of orientation about what is the latest happening that is basically taking place in the field of political science. And for that particular reason, I hope that whatever deliberations are going to be held today, they are definitely going to contribute to the pool of knowledge, as well as is going to add to a lot of good experiences for the participants who have come over here to attend this webinar. So with these few words, I basically will request Dr. Himanshu to now invite the resource person and say a few things and let this webinar be continued. And I think Himanshu and all other participants will understand that the position of Vice Chancellor is so busy position, and as a result of that, a lot of meetings have been lined up. So I will like to take excuse from all of you with the hope that this webinar is definitely going to be a learning experience for all of you. So thank you for inviting me out over here. And I am thankful to the resource person also for giving his consent to basically deliver his talk today. With these few words, I take leave from all of you. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now, I request one of our colleague in our department, Dr. Rosni Khuju, to introduce the theme. But since she is busy in some other work, in her absentia, I am, reading the theme of this, webinar. As I mentioned earlier, the webinar, the title of this webinar is The Relevance of Postmodernism in 21st Century. And, before we talk about, postmodernism or postmodernity, we have to understand what is the problem of, modernity or modernism. Modernity or modernism is based on, science and scientific method. And ironically, as science becomes more and more managed, it becomes less scientific and more technological. And thereby, postmodernism emerged as a critique of modernity. It is a critique of modernist ideal of autonomous individuality, and postmodernist suggests that science is just another meta-narrative and should have no more of priority than any other meta-narratives. It is more concerned with collective. This postmodernity is more concerned with collective experience than with individual grand narratives. And in the postmodern era, there are no boundaries and separatedness. All can coexist and collectively make things meaningful and relevant, what is proposed by post-behavioralism. And in this sense, postmodernism is closely related with post-behavioralism. We see pre-modern, modern, and postmodern occurring simultaneously and harmonizingly together in architecture, in business, in culture, and in academics. Lyotard and many other postmodernists proclaim that the grand narrative of modernism is failing to accommodate the new conception of how the 21st century world is constructed, how it operates, and how we operate within it. The modern grand narrative that claims that there is objectivity, there is universality, there is truth, being undercut by the connections we make between others in the world, by fleeting facts that come and go, and by various ways of seeing the world of which we are unaware even moments before. How do we respond to both sides of this coin? How do we maintain the aims, the benefits, the stability, the authority of status quo while allowing for emerging postmodern needs? The speaker may address some of these concerns in his talk, and at the same time may provide some nuances to understand the relevance of postmodernism in 21st century. Now, I request and welcome our speaker, my elder brother, Dr. Kamal and Choubey, to handle this session and to tell us uh, what is how postmodernism it has affected us and how we are contributing to the postmodernism. So thank you bhaiya, please continue. You are not audible.
Thank you, Himanshu, and Political Science Department of Sambalpur University for giving me this opportunity to share my views with all of you. I will try to give you some understanding about postmodernism in today's presentation. I will start with its background and key tenets of postmodernism, and then of course we will discuss about its relevance and the way we are looking to postmodernism these days. Basically, if we think about postmodernism, what we have to remember is that it is against meta narrative. Okay, and so first we should try to understand postmodernism. uh, Before postmodernism, sorry, we should try to understand modernism. But before moving towards understanding modernism or the emergence of modernism and then the problems with the idea of modernism, what we should remember is that in our day-to-day life we can find that people are using this term postmodernism nowadays. Uh, but more than postmodernism, there is a term post-truth, which we can find in uses in newspapers or TV channels, okay, or many people who are not happy with the things which are going on in social media or in media. They use this term post-truth. And what is the meaning of post-truth? The meaning of post-truth is that there is no one fixed truth and people can create their own truth. So the idea here is that what we have to remember is that postmodernism is also questioning this idea that there could be one truth. Okay, and postmodernism in social sciences is trying to emphasize on this point that if someone is saying that there is one truth, it means that that ideology or that person is trying to suppress all other views, and he as a person or that particular ideology is trying to impose one kind of view. Okay, so what we have to remember is in a very short, if we think about modernism, the idea of because postmodernism is coming after this idea of modernism. Okay, and modernism means that with reason we as a person or as a society we are able to understand what is the truth. Okay, we can decide that how this world originated and what would be the aim of human civilization if it wants to achieve the notion of good life. So what we have to remember is that many ideologies which emerged with modernism actually presented a meta narrative. And what is the meaning of meta narrative? The meaning of meta narrative is a narrative which is presenting the whole story from A to Z, from the beginning of human civilization or from the description of human nature to a model which actually creates a picture for future, that what kind of life human beings should try to achieve. So if you think about liberalism, if you think about Marxism, for example, both of them are trying to present a full story about human life, about the nature of human being, okay, and what kind of life human beings should try to achieve. Okay, so for example, in Marxism, I hope all of you know this, that it starts with primitive communism and then it ends with the idea of communism. So there is a full story. Okay, so the basic idea which is there in modernism is that with the use of our reason, with the use of our thinking faculty, we can achieve an understanding of the human civilization, okay, how it originated, what is its condition, and if we want to achieve a good life, or if we want to achieve a perfect situation, what way we should choose. Okay, so all ideologies which emerged with modernity or modernism, they actually focused on these ideas. Now, when we think about postmodernism, what we have to remember is that postmodernism first emerged in different kind, not in social sciences but in other disciplines. Okay, and basically it was uh, argued by many persons who were actually designing different kind of buildings, okay, that there are some universal kind of models or big models, and there are other models which have been or which were practiced by local persons. Okay, and then there is need to recognize those things too. Okay, so it was a kind of revolt against mega models, okay, or as I told you, meta narratives. But in this sense, it we can say when it started, it actually focused on the ideas or the models presented by local sculptures or local persons who were indulged in making some kind of buildings and other things. But gradually it moved towards social sciences and other disciplines too. And if you want to understand postmodernism, what you should remember is that the basic claim of postmodernism is that uh, meta narrative is not possible. Okay, that full representation is not possible. So, for example, they are saying that if Marxism or liberalism, for example, if they are saying that human beings are, and all of us know that the basic idea of liberalism is that human beings are rational. Okay, Locke emphasized on this point, and other liberals are also, accepting this thing. Even Rawls is also accepting this thing that human beings are rational. They have certain ideas about their good life, and they want to achieve this thing. But what postmodernists are trying to emphasize is that when you are saying that human beings are rational, you are actually uh, suppressing different other identities which human beings are carrying. So we are rational in some aspects of our life, but we are irrational in other aspects of our life. And I generally in my classroom give the example of Munna Bhai MBBS, where Boman Irani, as the director of a medical institute, he was taking a class of first year students, and he asked that when you have to operate one of your relative, like your sister or your mother, what would you do? Or how would you treat your patients? So one student answered that I will treat the patient as my family member. So he argued that you cannot do this because if I will operate my daughter, uh, I cannot do it perfectly because I will feel emotionally attached with her. Okay, so my point here is that what Boman Irani was trying to argue was that actually it is not possible for all individuals, even doctors, to be emotionally neutral all the time. So we cannot say that we are objective, we are rational all the time. Sometimes we behave rationally, and many other times we behave irrationally. Okay, so if a particular ideology or a particular thinker is saying that all human beings are rational, it is only presenting one side of truth, okay, or a partial truth. And same is true about Marxism and many other ideologies. Okay, so for example, and we can also find it in the practice too. Okay, so and basically, what was their argument? Postmodernist, and I will talk about Foucault and Derrida after some time. But basically, what you have to remember is that their argument is that if there is one object, okay, and for example this cell phone, and if we have to describe it, we cannot describe it fully. We can only describe some features of this object, which is described as cell phone. So they argued on this point that full representation is impossible. And if someone is presenting a particular kind of representation, representation means a particular kind of description, that description is only partial. And if that person or that ideology is presenting it as universal, it means that it is using power over others. Okay, and when a particular ideology try to do this, it always tries to normalize its version of truth. Okay, and in that process it suppresses other versions, it suppresses the desire of or feelings of or we can say vision of other communities or other persons. And we can find it we can find this particular thing in practice too. For example, we know that there are different kind of studies related to the experience of actually existing socialist states, that how a particular model of Marxism was imposed and different other identities were suppressed. And also this is true about liberalism. Okay, though we can find that in liberal societies there are continuous dialogue about making it more workable or making it better. Okay, and new kind of ideas emerged, but we know that in liberal societies, if we are living with this idea that a particular kind of understanding is ideal, and then we find that other communities or other persons are not behaving like that, we generally turn them as backward, okay, or as irrational. Even in India we do this. Okay, we are not ready to accept other form of thinking or other form of lifestyles. So my point here is that we can find that postmodernism is actually questioning the basic tenet of modernism. And the basic tenet of modernism is that human beings are rational, and with their rationality they can achieve a particular truth, not a particular truth, a universal truth. They can present a meta narrative. Okay, and that meta narrative will present a model for all human beings or human society to achieve a good life or notion of good life. So for example, a Marxist will say that communist society is a perfect model for human beings good life. Okay, but postmodernists are questioning it, and they are arguing that there are many things which can be described as the feature of postmodernism. Okay, and we can find it in the writings of Foucault or in the writings of Derrida. So for what you have to remember is they are against any kind of meta narrative. Okay, any kind of full story or one version of truth. They are against the idea that truth can be fully represented. Okay, they are arguing, postmodernism is arguing that truth cannot be fully represented. If someone is saying certain thing, it is only partial truth. It is, we can say, his version of truth. Okay, it is true about ideology, it is true about community, it is true about government. Okay, so one truth is not possible, and imposition of one kind of truth. And then they are talking about discourses. Discourses means that when we feel that a particular kind of particular version or particular truth has been described by a particular community or a particular ideology or a particular government, that creates a particular discourse. Okay, and in that discourse there is a notion of normalization. Okay, so the point is that we can find that in society there is this process of normalization. Okay, why? Because society is working according to a particular discourse. So they are actually trying to underline that there is need to question these discourses. Okay, there is need to question their suppressing roles, and we can find different kind of discourses in our society. Okay, so what I'm trying to say here is that the postmodernists are trying to focus on certain aspects which are actually related to, if we just try to focus on the central idea, it is against any kind of meta narrative. It is talking about the impossibility of one kind of truth, okay, and it is also continuously trying to identify that if there is any kind of imposition of one kind of truth, it means there are suppression. So you should be alert about it and you should question it. So there are many examples about which I will discuss when I will talk about Michel Foucault. And then, as I mentioned, that they are also against the idea of representation, that a particular thing could be fully represented by anything. What is the meaning of this? The meaning is, as I mentioned in the example of cell phone, or if we take more practical example, if there is one movie, okay, all of us will watch that movie, but the description of that movie will be different for all of us, okay. All of us will emphasize on different points, and none of us can claim that actually my description, okay, or our or anyone's description is fully correct, okay. There will be a description from the point of view of other persons, okay, or different persons, or that description cannot be turned as foolproof description. So this is the basic thing about postmodernism, and when it emerged, it actually emerged as fresh air, okay, because it helped to question many things in the social science, in the world of social sciences or in the world of life, uh, which were actually accepted as natural, normal, or perfect truth. Okay, I will come to this point after discussing certain things about Foucault and Derrida, and in the end of my presentation, I will tell you certain points about its relevance in 21st century. So basically, both Foucault and Derrida wrote in late 60s, 70s, and 80s. I think Foucault died in 1984, if I'm correct, but you should also check it. And Derrida died in 2004. And both of them presented different kind of ideas. Derrida talked about the impossibility of full representation, okay, of anything. And I will discuss his views after Foucault. Foucault is actually, in one sense, synonyms of postmodernism, and he wrote many books. And in those books, he presented the idea of governmentality. He presented the idea of power. He presented the idea of relationship between power and knowledge. So I'll focus on these three things, and then we will try to understand the revolutionary aspect of Foucault's ideas and then also its limitations. So basically, Foucault is saying that power is like blood capillaries in our body. So we know that in every part of our body, blood capillaries are there. Okay, but if and in same manner, if you think about society, power is everywhere in every relationship. We cannot say that any part of our society or any part of our life is devoid of power. Okay, power is controlling us. This is the basic thing. Okay, so it is like earlier the understanding was that there is one group of person or one class which is using power against others. But what Foucault is saying, that Foucault is claiming that power is like blood capillaries and it is everywhere, and it controls human beings or society or communities. Okay, we will come to this point after some time, but what he is trying to say here is that the whole society is divided in many structures, and he used this term governmentality. Governmentality is not the power of government, but what governmentality means is that use of or working of power by the division of society, okay, in different structures. Okay, so for example, he is saying that in medieval period this was not the situation, but this is the feature of modern times, that actually there are different kind of divisions of power. Okay, there are different layers of power, and one cannot situate power or the center of power at any one place. Okay, we can find that power is everywhere, and it is working through different kind of layers or different kind of structures. Okay, and no one can claim that he is carrying the full power, or we cannot say that anyone is independently using power. Okay, and this is the basic feature of modern human civilization. So what is the meaning of this? The meaning is that, and I'll give you the example of classroom, that in the classroom we can find that a teacher is using power. Okay, teacher has some kind of power. He can cut your marks in internal examination, but we cannot say that he is using all kind of powers. Okay, principal is above that teacher. Okay, and uh, after principal we can find vice chancellor is there. After vice chancellor, education minister is there. After education minister, the ministry or prime minister is there. And then prime minister is also working according to certain norms. He cannot also say that I'm carrying the full power. Okay, so my point here is that we can find that people are using some kind of power, but they are not able to use full power. So we cannot decide that where power is actually located. Okay, we can find that power is working through knowledge, power is controlling every person. Okay, so governmentality is a way to carry out the functioning of power. Okay, and the point is that this power is not located at one place. Okay, it is located at several places, and it is controlling everywhere. So even though sometimes I can feel that I'm using some kind of power, I'm also controlled by that power. Okay, so the point here is that someone has mentioned the name of Nietzsche. So obviously, postmodernist thinkers were influenced by his ideas, and maybe we'll come to that point later in question answer session. But I also want to emphasize this point that Foucault underlined this idea that there is a relationship between knowledge and power. Okay, it means that the general understanding is that if we have some kind of knowledge, we have some kind of power. But in this description, the meaning is that with knowledge, we are coming under the control of power. By knowing certain things, we are coming under the control of power. What is the meaning of this thing? The meaning is that if we think that we don't know anything, okay, in our childhood, okay, we are free. But the moment we start to know certain things, okay, we are coming under the power. It means that if I know that I'm gender wise I'm a man, okay, or a boy, I will behave in certain manner. If someone will realize that she is a girl, she will behave in certain manner. Okay, your name, your passport, your identity cards, your Aadhaar cards, all of them will work on you, though you feel that you have some kind of power, but actually it is defining your whole identity. Okay, that you can behave in certain manner, you cannot behave independently or the way you wish. It means that if I'm carrying an Aadhaar card, okay, it is telling many things about me, that I'm a male, that I'm from a particular area, okay, that I'm from particular. Aadhaar is not telling exactly the caste, but voter ID card is telling your name. Okay, so someone can identify your caste and many other things, even gender wise too. So in this sense, you will always find that society is expecting you to behave in a certain manner. Okay, you cannot behave freely. It means that knowledge is controlling you. Okay, I hope you understand this point, that though we can find that we are knowing many things, but by knowing many things we are coming under the spell of power. This power is controlling all of us. Okay, so in this way, we can find that there are many persons who are actually not able to live freely. Okay, there are many communities which can be identified easily, but there are many other persons like us who feel that they are free, they are powerful, they have knowledge, but they are actually controlled by the power. Okay, so Foucault is trying to underline this point, and in this context, we can take many examples. We can think about those persons who belong to transgender communities. We can think about those persons who are actually clearly facing problems due to some kind of Aadhaar card or some kind of I card. Okay, so all these things which are actually related to knowledge are in a sense imposing power on us. So Foucault underlined all these things, but the important thing about Foucault is that he also emphasized that the way for all individuals is that they should always try to resist any kind of imposition by the power. Okay, and I can give many examples. For We can say that who made this norm that only girls can wear saris. It was a created thing. It is a created thing in the society. Okay. Similarly, there are different kind of things through which power is actually working on us. Okay. So Foucault is underlining this point that there is need to resist this kind of imposition of power. Okay. So he underlined this particular aspect in his writings. Though someone can argue that if in every kind of relationship we are under power, okay, then where is the way to resist this power or move beyond this power? Okay, so this could be a particular criticism of postmodernism too. But before coming to that, I want to tell you something about Derrida. Derrida actually talked about the impossibility of representation, about which I mentioned earlier by the example of a movie. He argued that look, if one author is writing one book or one poem, okay, no one can say or claim that he or she is able to fully represent that particular text. Okay, so he argued that author is dead. Okay, so every person who will read that particular text or that particular poem or that particular story, they that person will present its own description. Okay, so the point here is that he talked about the impossibility of full representation. Okay, and though what happened in his lifetime was that many commentators started to describe his book in certain manners, in his writing in certain manner, and then Derrida claimed that actually that is a wrong description or wrong analysis of his works. So he was, in fact, he was became a victim of his own theory. But what we have to remember here is that saying this thing could be revolutionary, and in 21st century or in our lifetime, we can also find that people are claiming that uh, there is no one truth and there are different kind of truths. Okay, and if someone is claiming that his or her version of truth is perfect, this is not right thing, all these things are there. And I also told you about the post truth kind of thing. But the important point is that postmodernism is revolutionary in the sense that it gives us an understanding about the complexity of the working of power. It gives us insights to understand that many things which are actually termed as normal are questionable, they should be questioned, and they are, in one sense, it represent the working of power. Okay, and this is true about the idea of gender. This is true about the idea of development. Okay, so if we think about the idea of development in our country or any other country, uh, many people actually accepted this thing through some kind of syllabus, through some kind of lectures, through many books, that actually development means industrialization, okay, extraction of resources, using them to produce more things and develop society in the sense that there will be modern education, modern industry, marketization, and other things. Okay, and this idea of development actually led to the suppression of many communities, displacement of thousands of people. Okay, and their idea of living a good life or their idea of development was suppressed. Okay, so the point here is that postmodernism gives us a tool to question this idea that there could be one full description of development. Postmodernism is giving equal importance to the voice of suppressed communities, the voice of those communities who have been termed as backward or primitive. Okay, so in this sense, postmodernism has played an important role. Okay, but what we have to remember here is that, and in this case, and what I'm trying to say here is that in this sense only, postmodernism is very much relevance for our society, okay, or for any society in 21st century, that there cannot be one truth. Okay, no one can claim that this is the only way of understanding the India or describing the India or presenting a good future for India. There could be different voices. Okay, there should be some kind of dialogue. Okay, but actually the problem with postmodernism is that one thing is that postmodernism is saying that there is no truth, there is no truth, there is no truth, and it is presenting it as if the only truth is that there is no truth. Okay, so though it is criticizing all ideologies, okay, it became an ideology. So this is one problem. The second thing is with postmodernism is that if we are saying that there is no truth, there is possibility, but we can say that there is certainty that all different kind of different versions of truth can be claimed as valid. Okay, so Hitler can claim, or the supporters of Hitler can claim, that they worked on the basis of their own truth. Okay, they worked on the basis of their understanding of truth. So their truth is as valid as the truth of, for example, Gandhi, or as the truth of other non-violent leaders of the world, or as the truth of those persons who actually expressed the ideas of love or non-violence or care. Okay, so the problem with this idea of postmodernism is that it could be termed as post-truth, not always, okay, but the possibility is always there that that at one moment postmodernism is giving voices to suppressed classes, but at different other moments it is giving validity to all kind of we can say negative elements. Okay, or it is giving some kind of legitimacy to those persons who used inhuman mechanism to suppress humanity, like Hitler, for example. So this is the basic problem of postmodernism, and that is why many thinkers have claimed that actually, though postmodernism is giving us new way of understanding the reality, it is problematic because it is not clearly showing us path for future. It is not clearly telling us that what could be done to change the society or human civilization. Okay, and there is a possibility, there is a danger that it could be used by those communities, those persons, those groups who are supporter of status quo, okay, who want to maintain a status quo, or who want to spread some kind of wrong things in the society, okay, or those things which are not true, or which are actually false, which are we can say misinformation. So there should be some common points to create a good society, and postmodernism is actually not creating that space clearly, okay, because it is pointing out the impossibility of one kind of truth or certain common grounds. So there is this danger with uh, postmodernism. But what we have to remember is that if we want to create a good future for our country or our society, we must create a system where the voices of downtrodden people or minority groups would not be suppressed on the name of one kind of truth or one dominant explanation. Other explanations should be given equal chance, or they should be given equal spaces. Okay, but the challenge is to create that kind of a space by avoiding post-truth kind of situation, by avoiding a situation where all persons are saying different kind of things and claiming that they are actually presenting the idea of truth, okay, and they are using this particular theme to suppress the voice of other persons, okay. इतना ज्यादा हम झूठ का मामला सामने रख दें कि जो सच्चाई है वो कोई किसी की पकड़ में ही ना आए, और हम सब लोग ये क्लेम करते रहे कि जो हम कह रहे हैं वो ट्रुथ है. So if you are getting a message from WhatsApp, okay, if someone is claiming that this is the fact, okay, so एक तो factual error की सिर्फ बात यहाँ नहीं है, इसको आप लोग clear रहिएगा. I'm not talking just about factual error, but also presenting certain thing, okay, as if the description of that fact, okay, though it is a fact in a clear sense, the description, my description is right description, okay, तो ये भी एक टेंडेंसी इमर्ज करके आई है. So I just I'll stop here. I hope all of you actually followed what I mentioned here. तो थोड़ा सा मैं इसको एक बार 2-3 मिनट में एक बार हिंदी में बोल देता हूँ, अगर क्योंकि दो ही लैंग्वेज में जानता हूँ. एक भोजपुरी जानता हूँ जो कि यहाँ तो कोई नहीं समझ पाएगा या ज्यादातर लोग नहीं समझ पाएंगे, तो किसी को अगर इंग्लिश से थोड़ी दिक्कत हुई होगी तो बस 2-3 मिनट में मैं बता देता हूँ कि मैंने क्या बोलने की कोशिश की. मैंने ये बताया शुरू में कि किस तरीके से जो पोस्ट मॉडर्निज्म का आइडिया है वो मॉडर्निज्म को क्रिटिक करते हुए सामने आता है. मॉडर्निज्म मेटा नैरेटिव की बात करता है, जिसका अर्थ होता है एक बड़ी कहानी जिसमें शुरुआत भी है, अंत भी है, और सब कुछ फिक्स्ड एक तरीके से चलता है कि क्या है उसका बेसिक चीज. और उसमें एक जो क्लेम किया जाता है ट्रुथ का, उसका विरोध किया पोस्ट मॉडर्निस्ट ने. और ये इसकी जो शुरुआत हुई वो मोटे तौर पर जिसको हम लोग बोलते हैं जो बिल्डिंग वगैरह या भवन वगैरह बनाने का काम करते हैं उनके थ्रू. और उसके बाद इसके कुछ मेन जो एलिमेंट्स हैं उसके बारे में मैंने बात की कि कैसे मेटा नैरेटिव का विरोध करता है, कैसे रिप्रेजेंटेशन का विरोध करता है, कैसे ये डिस्कोर्सेस पर जोर देता है, और कैसे ये डिस्कोर्सेस के द्वारा जो नॉर्मलाइजेशन किया जाता है उसकी बात करता है. फिर मैंने फूको की बात की कि किस तरीके से फूको पावर की ब्लड कैपिलरी की बात करते हैं. जैसे शरीर में हमारे हर जगह ब्लड कैपिलरीज है, वैसे ही पावर हर जगह है, और कैसे फिर वो गवर्नमेंटलिटी की बात करते हैं, और कैसे वो नॉलेज और पावर के बीच में रिलेशनशिप की बात करते हैं. और फिर वो बोलते हैं कि हमें जहां भी पावर दिखे उसको रेजिस्ट करने की कोशिश करनी चाहिए. तो बहुत सारे लोग जो आप देखेंगे हमेशा हर जगह नहीं पर कई बार आप देखेंगे कि बहुत सारे जो बॉयज होते हैं जो अपने आप को एक बहुत ही बगावती तरीके का समझते हो, लंबे बाल रख लेते हैं. कुछ लड़कियां सिगरेट पीती हैं क्योंकि जो बने बनाए समाज में सच्चाई के मानक उनको तोड़ना है. और फिर मैंने आप लोगों से बात की डेरिडा के बारे में कि कैसे डेरिडा जो हैं वो अपने पॉइंट्स को रखते हैं खासतौर पे रिप्रेजेंटेशन की इम्पॉसिबिलिटी के बारे में. और फिर मैंने थोड़ा बहुत इसको रिलेट करने की कोशिश की कि इसके स्ट्रॉन्ग पॉइंट्स क्या हैं पोस्ट मॉडर्निज्म के, कैसे इसने बहुत सारे जो ऐसे वॉइसेस थे जो कि सामने नहीं आ रहे थे उनको आने में मदद की, और उसके बाद मैंने ये कहा कि किस तरीके से इसके नेगेटिव पॉइंट्स हैं। विकास कर्मा जो हैं, आर यू स्टूडेंट और व्हाट? You are continuously either you should be behind camera, or if you are in the classroom you should be serious, more serious. You are continuously talking. ये क्लासरूम का कमेंट था तो ये थोड़ा सा okay.
Hello, sir.
Because this is Dr. Mishra from the department, I request you to video बंद कर दियो, ठीक है, please.
Okay, so मैं जो बोलना चाह रहा था वो यही था, and I think if you people have any question, we'll discuss it, and then we'll move forward. Himanshu?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Choubey. We have some questions asked by our students. Sanjay Meher has asked, Pradeep has asked, then Manti, then my friend and junior, Professor Dr. Rajiv Lochan Behra from Department of Philosophy, Banaras Hindu University. He has asked something I can see in the chat box, and I think the speaker, Kamal Bhaiya, you can see it in the chat box. So I request you to go through these questions and convince us or convince the person who has asked this question, please.
So I'll start with, I hope I'm audible, Pradeep Kumar Pradhan's point. In which society are we living today? Are we living in modern society or postmodern society? Whether the postmodernism has gone. No, the point is that we cannot, picture whole world in one claim that we are living in postmodernist or pre-modern or medieval kind of society. Okay, but obviously as an idea we are living with the existence of all these things. Okay, and many, though I feel that in its positive sense postmodernism is not influential in India, at least in last few years. Okay, and we can find the negative use of postmodernism, but many supporters of postmodernism will claim that actually post-truth is not post-modernism, but there is this fear in the idea of postmodernism that it could be turned into post-truth kind of thing. So what I want to emphasize here is that we cannot say that we are living fully, that we are living in modern or post-modern era. The ideas are there and they are expressing themselves in different ways in different parts of society. So obviously the idea of modernity is also working, and many other communities, many suppressed identities are expressing themselves. So you can easily find that there are voices in the society, okay, which were silent 1 or 2 decades before, but now they are expressing themselves. So in this sense, they are using the idea or the strength given by the postmodernism to question the dominant understanding of society about gender relations, for example, or about the existence of many identities which are actually or which have been actually in the periphery of the society. So in this sense, we can say that postmodernist ideas are relevant, okay, and they are giving voices. There are many movements against the dominant model of development imposed by a central authority or state authorities. Okay, so postmodernist ideas are also there, but we can find that in many parts of society, I mean, they are not totally or in nowhere in the world, the postmodernist ideas lead to a situation of the extension of the modernist ideas. Okay, So modernist ideas are also there. Okay, so both of them are existing in the society, and we can also find that postmodernism has presented a situation where in many parts of the country we can find that people are not able to find common grounds, and I think I should say not just in our country but in many parts of the world. Okay, and there is a theoretical danger with postmodernism to justifying all kind of negative things which are going on in the society. So that is my response to Pradeep Kumar Pradhan's argument. I'm just trying to read some questions. Sanjay Mehar's question is about nihilism, and he was also, in my understanding, Friedrich Nietzsche was also against. I mean, he argued that actually morality is nothing but the truth imposed by the powerful or masters over the slaves. So he talked about master and slave morality, and he presented this idea. So what we have to remember here is that in one sense, in Nietzsche's ideas, there are many elements which express themselves in postmodernism. Okay, and he also argued about, he questioned the existence of God, he questioned the existence of morality. Okay, and he presented it as some kind of imposition over human beings. So in this sense, I would say that his idea of questioning morality was one kind of interpretation, and we discussed much about the things which are related to postmodernism, which actually we can say very much influenced by his ideas. So my response is that all the his ideas were one kind of interpretation. Okay, so and the way he presented it was that we can say that all these things created by some strong classes, or they actually represent some kind of master morality. Okay, or they have been imposed on those persons who are not actually powerful. So he questioned all these things, and he rejected their existence too. Yes, Pradeep Kumar Pradhan has written, there is a saying that knowledge is power. Here I am getting a paradox that knowledge is under the clutch of power. Knowledge is under the clutch of power. Or we can say that knowledge is working as a tool to create power. Okay. So knowledge is power in this sense that, according to Foucault, okay, and of course, I think Pradeep's question is slightly different from this understanding. We can say, in other terms, that actually powerful persons are deciding syllabus. Okay, they are deciding that what kind of things we should read or what kind of things we should not read. So this is a clear use of power. But here, in the sense of Foucault, the point is that the way we are knowing things, okay, or the moment we are knowing things, we are coming under some kind of power. Okay, so for example, if I know that I am a man, okay, I the many kind of I mean different kind of norms will be imposed on me. Okay, if I know that I'm not a man but I'm a woman, for example. Okay, or if I know that I'm a student of a particular college, or if I know that anything, you can take any example about economy, about politics. Okay, तो जैसे जैसे हम जानते हैं वैसे वैसे हम इसके कंट्रोल में आते जाते हैं. तो मुझे इन माय अंडरस्टैंडिंग प्रदीप जी's question is talking about knowledge is under the clutch of power. That is true. But here in postmodernism, the claim is that knowledge is actually creating power. Okay, and the moment we know something, we are coming under the control of power. That is the basic argument. Manti Bisi's question is that sometimes it is seen that postmodernism has been labeled as obscurantist and even pseudo-modernist. Is it having a structure of mixed ideas, using whatever comes at hand? I think you are right, Manti, because if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, because as I told you that one can say that if there is a truth imposed by the society, if I'm a Dalit and the society is imposing a truth that you should do a particular kind of work only, okay, or if I'm a working class person and society is imposing a particular kind of truth, okay, then obviously if I will resist it by saying that no, there is no fixed truth, then it is a progressive thing. Okay. But there is always a danger that many people can say that since there is no one fixed truth, then obviously my version is truth is also valid. So a working class person can question the dominant truth created by the dominant class, but similarly, the supporter of Nazi party or fascist party can also claim that the way he or she is presenting the truth is also valid. Hitler can also claim that all things he did in concentration camps in Germany or in Austria, all of them were right because they are related to his version of truth. So you are right by saying that the problem with postmodernism is that it is opening a door of using its ideas by many sections of the society or by many peoples as they wish. So this is the problem, and this is a criticism of postmodernism too. There is a question by Dr. RLB. I think if he wants to say something, he should say. He is writing many things about Kant, and I think all of us will be happy to listen him. Dr. RLB Himanshu, because he
Yes.
has written many things. So if he wants to say something, he can say this.
Rajiv, are you there? No, I think Rajiv left, and he's teaching in Banaras in the university. Maybe there will be some classes.
So I think I would take it as an observation. Okay.
Yeah, you can. You can.
Yeah, and if he will come, he can say these things so
Right,
that
right.
all of us will listen it.
Yeah.
प्रदीप कुमार के क्वेश्चन को तो मैंने बोल दिया था.
हाँ.
ज्ञान रंजन is my friend and he was my classmate in MPhil and MA in MPhil. So he has written certain things.
He will
No, I
speak,
haven't written anything. I have just congratulated the organizers for this wonderful lecture. Thanks to Kamal for agreeing to speak on this topic, and particularly Himanshu for organizing this talk. Actually, I'll tell Himanshu, may I have the permission to speak for 1 minute?
You can. I was thinking that I will invite you, after this question and answer session.
No. I don't have much observations about the topic because this topic itself, is a very interesting topic. But the way Kamal has presented it, particularly so lucid, and the way he tried to explain things using examples, and the way the entire articulation process is very, very interesting. But otherwise, this whole idea of postmodernism and the way they try to deconstruct and construct the society, it's very interesting to observe. So that is, and most in this part of India, I don't think postmodernism as a subject has actually captured the attention of political science people. So whether the students or the academicians, we try to ignore this subject and its importance, because maybe I don't know the reason, but I haven't seen many students reading this subject with a lot of interest. So that's why I thought, the organizers, they actually choose this topic, a very unconventional topic, and Kamal actually agreeing to speak on this. This is a wonderful combination. Thank you, the organizers and the speaker, Dr. Choubey, and he has many specializations. I thought I'll ask Himanshu to introduce Kamal, because I could have introduced Kamal in a much better way. So Kamal has many, credits. So he's a wonderful, apart from political specialist, he's a wonderful, forest rights specialist also. He has multiple specializations, Kamal. So thank you, Kamal. Sambalpur University is a very old university, and you agreed to speak on this. It's a great joy to be part of this lecture. So thank you very much, Himanshu. Thank you.
So thank you,
Gyan. Thank you for your kind words.
And I must also say that Kamal Bhaiya, he's also an activist, right? He's activist and academician, and there are very few people in India who are maintaining the both, right? So I think Kamal Bhaiya, there are two questions more, right? So please address this.
I think it should have been done earlier, but I would like to listen Basudev Ranvida, if he can actually explain what is the meaning of his question by speaking 1 or 2 minutes if he wants. Otherwise, there is no compulsion. So he is talking about globalization, and basically we can say, and right now I'm not able to give any theoretically concrete answer. This is a kind of extrapolation of my understanding of the idea of globalization and the idea of postmodernism. That in this sense, we can say that globalization is actually moving beyond the idea of a fixed boundary of nation states. Boundary not in the sense of actual line of control, but boundary in the sense of economic activities. Okay, the earlier understanding was that a state has responsibility of doing all kind of things for its citizen, and it should control market and other things. And post-modernism, when it started to question all kind of given understanding about the role of a state, about the role of any kind of explanation or any kind of ideology, it also questioned all this particular ideology, which led to which could actually worked in the favor of globalization. And the another historical thing could be that the ideas related to postmodernism, not directly but indirectly, played an important role in giving voices to many suppressed communities, okay, within existing socialist states, particularly in Soviet Union before 1990, when or late 1989, when the Soviet Union disintegrated. Okay, so in this sense, we can say that it actually contributed to the giving some kind of relevance or some validity to the idea of globalization, that there is no one fixed way to understand or to describe the role of a state. Okay, But what we have to remember is that there were different kind of globalization in the early 20th century too, or in the era of colonialization or colonialism too. So it is I would say that it is an issue about which we should think more carefully. But this is my, I would say, an extrapolated explanation to the question of Basudev. I agree with Akanksha Nahak that obviously post-modernism or the idea of post-modernism is giving validity to the views of tribal communities too. That there is no one way to describe or to understand the idea of development, okay, or the idea of being modern or the idea of being developed, okay. It gives more and more validity to them, and we can find that the many small movements which emerged in different parts of our country by and which were led by or which are being led by we can say tribal leaders or groups which are working in tribal communities, okay, all these things actually emphasize on the point that there is possibility to question the imposed model of development, okay. And we can say that the idea behind postmodernism actually give them this kind of strength. But I also want to underline this thing that this does not imply that any person who is working for uh, post for tribal rights, for example, is directly aware about the writings of Foucault or the writings of Derrida. Okay, but what we should remember is that when some ideas emerged, okay, these ideas travel through different kind of mediums, and they give people strength to question the existing thinking process or existing dominant ideas. Okay, and I think there is need to think about this aspect more. But right now, what I'm totally agree with Akanksha's point that actually it gives some kind of legitimacy and validity or some voices to tribal struggles.
Excuse me, sir. Should I allow to put a question, sir?
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes, you can speak.
Sir, namaskar. Sir, my question is that power structure is absolutely meant for modern society or what we are living today. But so far as so far as the customs and traditions of Adivasi people are concerned, so far as my knowledge is concerned, I feel it fails to make influence over them. So how can you say that postmodernism that is working on their culture or on their lifestyle?
No, here the point is that postmodernism is uh, is actually it is doing two things. One is that it is emphasizing on uh, the power or the tendency or the capacity of all communities to question the dominant ideas. Okay, so when tribal people are questioning these things, that no, there is not one model of development, okay, or not one way of understanding development, then obviously their views are related to postmodernism. And as I mentioned, it is not necessary that they are directly aware about postmodernist ideas, but there is this postmodernism we can find support for these voices, okay. And the another thing is that since it is talking about the truth of different kind of truths, okay, then obviously it is and there is a possibility, or we can say there is certainty in this case, that it will argue that no, tribals, if tribals are talking about their customs, if tribals are talking about their traditions, there is some validity in their claims too, okay. But the danger, again, the danger is that in any community we cannot say that all traditions or customs are good, okay. And the danger is that postmodernism is not actually presenting a model for rejecting negative traditions, negative customs. Okay, so there are certain problems with postmodernism too. But what we have to remember is that the emergence of postmodernism and the emergence of local voices, both these things happen simultaneously. Okay, and there are many thinkers who supported this whole idea of the emergence of different kind of voices. So you cannot find any systematic LGBTQ movement in our country before, I think, 1980s. Okay, or we can say in last 20 years it emerged more systematically. So my point is that postmodernism is actually giving it a strong legitimacy, any kind of movement by tribal communities or any marginalized communities. But we can find that theoretically, for example, liberalism or Marxism will not support these things fully. Okay, they will actually, for example, Marxism will say that no, you should move towards industrialized society. Liberalism will also present the same model. Okay, but in postmodernism there is a possibility to give some kind of legitimacy to these voices. So this is my response. Maybe I don't know, I'm able to give a full answer to your question or not, but we should take it as a way of discussing things.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. You are using someone else's phone, I think. This is not your name, Akanksha Nahar. Any other question?
So I think you have answered the questions asked by Samir. How does postmodern society influence the Adivasi identity? So partially, I think you have answered it. So thank you, Dr. Choubey, for your presentation. And I intentionally conducted this webinar on a theoretical topic, and the topic it's the postmodernism. We are affected by this ideology, and at the same time we are also contributing to this ideology. And the reason why I opted what Professor Swine has mentioned, that why I opted this unconventional topic, it's primarily because that in Hyderabad University, DU, JNU, I think these terms are very common: Derrida, Foucault, postmodernism, post-structuralism. But educational institution, especially state university, which are there in the periphery area, people, they don't talk about that, right? And regarding this topic, I think through question and answer, you may not understand or you may not handle these issues relating to postmodernism. Rather than, I think you need to think about it. You need to have dialogue and discussion. Through that, I think you can understand postmodernism better than expecting a certain answer to your question, because postmodernism is all about introducing to an uncertain or uncertainty, right? So the question that we need to ask ourselves, that am I right, or there are other understanding? Am I in a position to falsify the other understanding, or if not, then I have to accept and respect that understanding? Now, this attitude will solve the problem what we are facing day to day, life today. So, thank you, Dr. Kamal and Choubey. And I think we are right now, we have arrived at the last part of this webinar, and I invite my PhD student Abhipsa Tripathi to give vote of thanks. Abhipsa.
Thank you so much, sir. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Sanjeev Mittal, sir, our speaker, respected Dr. Kamal Nayan Choubey, sir, respected Head of the Department, Dr. Satya Prakash Das, sir, our webinar convener, respected Dr. Himanshu Sekhar Mishra, sir, and all our most valued invited guests and participants. It's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. So I, on behalf of my department and university, extend my vote of thanks to our speaker for giving his valuable time towards gracing this event with his thought. Thank you, sir, for sharing your knowledge with us. It was indeed a very helpful for all of us to listen to you, and thereby we are inspired towards the academics. I am also thankful to our Honorable Vice Chancellor for gracing this webinar and give us his valuable time by inaugurating this webinar. His continuous support encourages us to do such webinars from time to time. So thank you, sir. I would like to take this opportunity to thank my supervisor, Dr. Himanshu Sekhar Mishra, for arranging such webinar on the theoretical theme and provide us a chance to listen to an associate professor of Delhi University. Sir, thank you very much for your involvement and cooperation. The department will not forget you for your taking pain to organize such event. Lastly, I would like to thank all the participants for the registration, participations, and their willingness to be with us in the successful completion of this event. So thank you one and all.
So thank you, Avipsa. I am also thanking you since you gave the vote of thanks. And lastly, I think I must thank to Vijay Behra. He is a consultant in Odisha State Open University, Sambalpur. Without him, I think I could not have completed this webinar. So thank you, Vijay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Now you
Now
can
we'll wind up the
continue.
session.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all.